complaining. Live from the woke data aquarium.
What? What? What words were those?
I got to keep the W thing going. It's a woke data Wednesday aquarium. It's a good old-fashioned ESG rant edition of Business Pants. Joined as always by Emma Devil Dog Lurking and Matt Ringding Musardi. You think I have those names? Should I switch those?
Yes,
Is
you
Emma
should.
more of a
I'm the
Ringding?
devil dog, and Emma's a ringding.
I'm definitely. I would like to be the devil dog, but I know that I'm the ringding. I'm big enough.
Sometimes you can be a devil
That's
dog.
very
Emma.
self-aware of you, though.
Thank you.
I would like to. Maybe one day we can have a whole show dedicated to what is Emma's role in her friendship group.
Oh God, you don't want to know.
As described by a Hostess brand.
I actually do want to
Snack
know.
food.
Yeah, just describe in either
I
Little
did-
Debbie's snacks or Drake's snacks. That's
I
it.
did recently do a Hostess snack taste test with my roommate because I'd never had a Twinkie before, and so then we realized that I had basically not had any other Hostess snack either, so I had a sampling. It was lovely.
All right. Hey, I'm not a big Hostess. I like Drake's the most.
This
The Little Debbie's
from a
second.
woman who at the S&P ESG conference summit sampled all the loaves. So sampling is
so
a
many
thing for you.
loaves to sample. It was extremely exciting.
I didn't
Pumpkin,
realize.
poppy seed, lemon, so many loaves.
Cranberry.
Well, we've always
There's a
described
cranberry.
Emma, our very own Emma, looking really as a living loaf. Really? I mean, that's really where we go.
Somebody did. Let's go on with
Good
the
thing,
show.
Emma.
We have a show,
In
right?
today's Y2K bag of Why is the World So Depressing nuggets called May
Yeah, it's really
25th,
not.
2022. Market apathy, bald white men hate ESG, and Bloomberg doesn't seem to care where Matt works. I don't know.
They don't.
Is this former mayor Mike Bloomberg, or is it just the Bloomberg company? I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah, we'll get
Everybody. Okay. I'm going to start up top. I don't care if you put a timer on me because I don't have a lot to say, but it's up to you, Emma.
You're getting one. Don't you worry.
I was really the school shooting in Texas. It couched me last night. I was really depressed.
Yeah,
5
it was
minutes.
not great.
I don't have 5 minutes. I mean, I do get depressed a lot, but this one really couched me. So part of what I was thinking when I woke up this morning is the business world, the markets, corporations, they do tend to at least react to most of the news, either whether it's good news, bad news, whatever. So that was the premise when I woke up this morning. Here's what I found. Because, I want to cover the story and I want to make it appropriate for Business Pants and Free Float Media. But this is how they cover the story. They don't. That's it.
Oh,
That's my segment.
Shocker.
No, really,
wow.
they don't.
What?
Again, this is
what
like
trumped
the
it?
intersection of all the worst things of our life, of our culture, and yet the business news just has no. Either they don't care. Let me give you some examples, so you think I'm just being anecdotal here or not. I'm gonna make fun of a few of the things I checked. Business Insider. I'm gonna start with you. I'm gonna look at you, Business Insider. From the business news, market perspective, there are two newsletters I look at every morning. One thing is called 10 Things Before the Opening Bell. Okay,
Mhm.
I would think this would be one of the things. First of all, you
It
start
was
off
a
your
thing, yeah.
you start off your newsletter with Happy Wednesday, readers.
Oh,
Which I didn't feel good
Yes.
about that.
no.
Secondly, in the whole 10, you got 10 things, nothing. Although you did manage to get Tesla in twice. Tesla stock is close to flashing a bearish signal, and Elon Musk's 1.1 billion, blah, 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 blah. So you managed to get Elon Musk in there twice. And you also managed to have an item, it just sounds absolutely ridiculous to me. The next 6 months might be the exact opposite of the market's ongoing crash. Who cares? No, what is that? I don't know what that is.
They
Anyway.
had space for that
Yeah, they had space for 2 Elon Musk sightings.
and saying something that is utterly meaningless.
Yeah.
And in instead of a shooting of school children.
So
Can't
let's
fit
move on
that in
to
somewhere.
the other big newsletter I read from them called 10 Things in Tech. And I thought for sure they'd cover it here because I did see this nauseating the shooter nauseatingly posted something on Instagram about his arsenal and about
of course
some scary messages about people being scared. It was terrible. But again, list of 10, nothing. And this one started off with "Happy Wednesday, folks," with an exclamation point. So this list is even happier.
More excited.
Yeah. And I said this list had nothing on it too, and they even had room for number 9 on the list, which was best early Memorial Day tech device sales.
Oh, wow.
So again, I don't really know. I
Look,
will say this. Moving on. Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
I spent an hour and a half last night researching for this show something new to say about this. But the only thing I could come up with is, America, go fuck yourself. That's pretty much all I got.
Ouch.
I don't know what else to say. It's like my kids are this age, literally this age, and I had to have a conversation with them. Like, you may hear discussion of this. There's going to be more police at the school because we got a notice. I don't know why. What is this country? What is this? What are we? That's all I got. That's my research. My research is what? Nothing.
Well, I mean, I will say this. We started this show at MSCI, and one of the first big topics was the Parkland shooting. That was 4 years ago. And at that time, corporations actually did have a say. I mean, they did actually get pretty heavily involved with the Parkland shooting. There was a lot going on. We covered it for many weeks. I don't know what has happened in the last 4 years that this is now crickets. And don't tell me it's just that, people are, that it's just enough. I don't know. Don't tell me like it's. I don't even know what to say.
We just covered a week or two ago the Louisiana law that they're trying to do the thing. They're trying to pass it. They're trying to do the thing that Texas did with fossil fuels with guns. Louisiana is trying to make it possible that if you have a stance on guns that is like remove guns from a portfolio, you cannot
Anti-woke.
operate. The anti-woke are basically making it possible for us all to die via gun and climate change. Thank you.
And let me wrap up. I want to point out 2 more organizations for sucking. CNBC. You did link to the story from your NBC news outlet, but as far as CNBC goes, they managed to have nothing to say. And then Morning Brew. That's a big. I consider them our big competitor, even though they probably have millions of readers and we have 4. But they really pissed me off because they started the story in the newsletter, elementary school kids killed in Texas. And again, it was very it was news. It was nothing about corporations or anything like that, even though that's what they do. And then the very next article, the very next line in the very next article after that horrible first article started with this: "What has us typing like we're in middle school again? Nothing too crazy, just this cashback card that has us feeling like a kid in a candy store thanks to 0% intro APR." Like, that was the very next story. Yeah, so F you, Morning Brew. You suck at your game. All right. That's all I got.
I am going to talk about something that everyone in the ESG woke business world is talking about, and that is at the FT Moral Money Europe 2022 conference, which was not a summit, by the way, so a little disappointing.
Wait, for
FT,
Emma,
the Financial Times
things to Emma
is
now,
FT. Yeah. FT is the Financial Times, the news organization.
Sorry.
Moral Money is a column that they do, or like series that they do. Europe 2022 conference, so European conference. The HSBC head of responsible investment, Stuart Kirk, gave a talk. The talk was called "Why Investors Need Not Worry About Climate Change." That's right. There's a "not" in there. Okay.
This is at the Moral Money Conference, the head of
Moral
responsible
Money
investment.
Conference. All right.
Wait, before you even get into that, what is a head of maybe you get to this, but what is a head of responsible investment exactly?
Well, I get to that. Yeah, I'll explain what that is.
I'll
And do we
shut my
have
mouth.
the clips loaded up?
We
do we
do.
have clips loaded? All right, great.
We do.
Here are the notes before we get to his deep thoughts. The head of responsible investment, which is what Stu is, leads all the ESG research and investment strategy for the asset management arm of HSBC.
The ESG research. Okay, got it.
Okay.
He's overseeing like research, and like somebody wants to do an ESG fund. He oversees all that. Head of responsible investment. Okay. This is not to be confused with head of sustainability. That person is Aaron Leonard, who actually spoke at the same conference on the day earlier than Stu did. Head of sustainability mostly deals with like staff diversity and energy efficiency and recycling and stuff inside HSBC, right? Like, okay.
They also have
Balls,
They also do have a chief sustainability officer, so this is an important
they
role
all
for them.
that Aaron will go up to that.
Yeah.
And actually, Stuart Kirk goes up to the CIO, the Chief Investment Officer. Okay, so different branches.
Got it.
Stu started in 2021, replaced a woman named Melissa McDonald, who's now actually at MSCI. She's their head of climate and ESG indexes. Stu's qualifications
I can
before
see why
he
she
got
left.
this job.
I can't
figure it out. His qualifications include, number 1, HSBC Global Head of Research, right? Research, just general research. Number 2, DWS Global Head of Research, general researchy stuff like finance research. Number 3, Deutsche Bank's Global Head of Multi-Asset Research. So he does more research. He does a lot of research. Number 4, he was an opinion columnist at the FT where he wrote stories like, quote, how ESG can have unintended consequences. And number 4, he was a portfolio manager for nearly 8 years at Grenfell. Now, you might note something about these job titles.
Yeah.
0 of them have the word ESG or sustainability in the names of them. Like, he's never been in charge of just ESG sustainability stuff, okay? Third thing to note, HSBC was the sponsor of the event. HSBC paid money to the FT to have Stuart Kirk, the head of responsible investment, on the stage. And HSBC, if they're anything like MSCI was, approves and vets what they're going to say at these events, right? It has to go through marketing, has to go through legal, has to get approved. HSBC paid to have this done, okay?
Yep.
Number 4, Stuart is bald, which, according to a UK court last week, means I cannot now call him a bald C word without being sexual harassment for the word bald, not C word. He does bring up...
but that's in the UK and we're in the US. But then again, he works in the UK. This is a challenging
It's
issue,
a legal quagmire, whether or not I just sexually harassed him. He does, however, bring up his own appearance at the conference, saying, quote, I do have a beard, which is my one sop to responsible investing. If you don't know what the word sop is, it's British for concession of no value. It basically means he's saying... I grew a beard, which is my one thing that I gave up to be in responsible investing. That's right.
What?
The first thing he says.
What's he talking about?
He's saying because I have a beard, I'm apparently like loose and responsible investing now.
Oh, because that makes him look like a leftist?
That's probably correct. But I can now, because he brought it up, I can call him a bearded C word if I wanted to and get away with it. I just want to point that out. Okay. Finally, my notes before we get to Stuart's thoughts. Stuart Kirk's title is Head of Responsible Investing. He is the head of responsible investing. He's the
HSBC.
ESG head. He's the wokest guy in the place.
Let me ask you a question. Is this a step? He was the global head of research at HSBC. Was he demoted to be the head of responsible investing?
I think he was side-moded.
He was side card.
Dual-moded.
Got it.
Head of responsible investing. All right, Emma, let's play clip 1, shall we?
We shall.
With gold bugs my whole financial career. The roof's going to cave down. Y2K. Does anyone remember Y2K? Anyone old enough? The lifts didn't stop. But what bothers me about this one is the amount of work these people make me do. The amount of regulation coming down the pipes, the number of people in my team and at HSBC dealing with financial risk from climate change. Last night, Target fell 25%. 25%. And people are asking the board of US companies to spend time dealing with climate risk.
What? He's joking. That's stand-up. He's trolling.
That was Stuart Kirk, head of responsible investment, telling us climate change is making him do his job.
Matt, he's doing comedy.
He would rather be thinking about how Target didn't sell enough Garfield pajamas. That's
Emma,
really
was your
what he's saying
reaction
right there.
the same as mine? Did you feel immediately like a little bit scared? Didn't he seem angry from the get-go? Like, did you get that vibe?
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's an uncomfortable energy to that dude.
As the head of responsible investing, it's particularly concerning that the words are coming out of his mouth, not even like just another random executive.
I just want to point out something that Emma said there, which is head of responsible investing. Okay. Clip
I
number
still
2.
don't really know what that means, to be honest.
I
I really don't. I'm sorry. And everyone complains about ESG being too loose and like, what does it mean? But what the f does what does that mean? Responsible? And I get the investing part, but how do you define responsible? Go ahead, define it for me.
He's the wokest one there. That's all you need to know.
Okay.
Clip number 2.
Clip number 2.
Responsible for what? Making sure your kids.
Another thing
is
I often
on?
hear is, oh, what about stranded assets? And oh, my goodness gracious me.
That is Stuart Kirk, head of responsible investment at HSBC at the Moral Money Conference, giving us a pretend whiny voice about stranded assets. Stranded assets.
He has a good pretend whiny voice, by the way.
Yeah, he's got that British little thing.
Yeah,
I don't know if
totally.
it's pretend, Emma. I think he's used to. He'd call it whinging.
If you don't know what a stranded asset is, it's the oil and coal that you can't dig out of the ground, because if you do, you light the earth on fire. He is doing pretend whiny voice about that. Okay, that is Stuart Kirk, head of responsible investment.
Wait.
Clip number. Yeah.
Hang on. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I didn't know what a stranded asset was until exactly this moment. And that's what it is. It's just like, oh, damn, we can't make money off of it because it'll destroy something.
That's correct. So a company owns the ability to dig in that ground and get that oil or get that coal or whatever. And they put that on their balance sheet. It's an asset on their balance sheet. Like, we own the coal that's under that ground and we'll get it. And what climate scientists have said is, if you dig that out, you destroy like all the stuff.
Cool.
So you can't dig that out. And that means that asset is stranded and they have to strike it from their book. So he's doing pretend whiny voice about that.
It's kind of like all those unicycle washes I bought in Sheepshead Bay. It's like they're just pointless. I thought there was going to be a revolution.
A lot like that.
Just sitting there. Just sitting there.
Clip number 3, please.
But my final point, I guess, is an optimistic one. It's just before coffees. Everybody so far that I've listened to this morning has been quite doom-laden. Humans are spectacularly good at managing change. That is the long-run return of the S&P 500. That includes 2 world wars. That includes an oil crisis. That includes a financial crisis. That includes the pandemic. It goes up and up and up, and it will continue to rise at 6.5% real for as long as toast is toast, and the climate change won't change that either.
Okay.
Wow. First of all, can I applaud the fact that he's saying that as it's a fact? Like he's already determined that something that is going to happen in the future is a fact.
It will happen.
It will happen.
Head of responsible investment.
The hell?
Stuart
That's
Kirk.
not responsible talking, Matt.
That is responsible investee at the Woke Moral Money Conference, responsibly climate changey ESG stuff with words, telling us humans are great and climate change isn't all that, and showing a chart that shows the S&P 500 going up and up and up, especially when you ignore the drops in the S&P 500 and climate change, right? Okay, so this
the drops only hurt like common saps. They don't hurt people like Baldy Kirk.
How dare you? That's a sexual harassment. Clip number 4, please.
Likewise, we do have no idea what the next 50, 100 years are going to bring, but I can promise you in 100 years when my great-great-grandson stands up and pulls up that chart, it will look more or less the same. The log pattern will hold. And all I do is beg people in this room not to be so negative around returns. The markets are crashing around our ears today and yesterday for nothing to do with climate whatsoever. I implore our leaders and our regulators, most of all, because I spend way too much time at work dealing with this, to show some perspective.
Jeez.
And let's get back to making money out of the transition, because there are thousands of opportunities out there. We have $1 trillion car company that nobody at the FT predicted 5 years ago, including myself. And they're the sort of opportunities we need to invest in all around the world. I agree in the just transition. I agree with the opportunities that exist in all these facets of technology, but it's a good thing. It's nothing to be ashamed or scared about. I rest my case. Enjoy your coffee. Thank you very much.
That's his case. Well, can I say two things? First of all, that $1 trillion car company is actually worth $650 billion right now. And second of all, if he paid attention to what the idea of what ESG really is, which is about kind of gauging long-term risk, he'd know that it's the leader of that car company that it probably is its biggest risk, governance, and will probably continue to drag down that market cap. So these things are complicated, Stuart. And can I add one more thing? Is what that chart doesn't show is the market's been rising steadily over years, is that there probably are thousands of people working to mitigate risk along the way to make sure that there was a long-term viability to corporations.
My favorite part of what he says, because the clip 3 and clip 4 are basically more or less back to back. That is head of responsible investment, Stuart Kirk, head of responsible investment, responsibly saying that the S&P 500 markets will continue to go up and up and up. And that's right after he says no one can predict the future and no one knows what's going to happen. He literally prefaces, no one knows what's going to happen, but we can say that chart's going to keep going up and up and up. And scene. That's how he ends it.
This is why I always hate when I go to parties and I have to sit with all the husbands. This is what a lot of them are like. They're like this.
Here are my two big takeaways from head of responsible investment at HSBC, Stuart Kirk. Head
I'm excited.
of responsible investment.
This looks like 10 takeaways, though. Yeah, go ahead.
Number 1, Stuart Kirk just said the same thing I was told in literally every meeting with a portfolio manager I ever had at MSCI over 10 years. I was told the following: you're an agent of the UN sent to ruin my investing scheme. You're a socialist. You're a communist. You're a tree-hugging hippie, social justice warrior. Nothing you says matters because it's like 500 years from now. You know nothing about my job. Do you have a resume? Because I don't think you're even qualified to be here.
Maybe
you
true.
lose me money. You can't say anything I didn't know already. Those were all things that were said to me.
To be fair,
Basically summed them up nicely.
I remember we did have that meeting and we were talking about Mellon Bank. I think it was Mellon. And you did have that projection for 2519. Remember you were saying who the CEO would be in the year 2519? And even I thought, like, Matt, what are you doing here? That's a little weird.
Dial it back.
Bring
Dial
it
it back.
Come on.
And number 2, Stuart Kirk said all those things that were said to me at MSCI with portfolio teams and research teams behind closed doors in public at a conference in front of the world. HSBC's head of responsible investment said it all out loud, and it was awesome that someone said it out loud.
Why?
It is awesome to hear the truth that these people think that the head of responsible investment said out loud at a conference. Climate change doesn't matter. That is great, because you know why? Because now when you go to hire a head of responsible investment, maybe you'll look at their resume and say, wait, do they think climate change matters? Or maybe you'll realize that all of those people, a lot of them are full of shit.
Wait, so are you saying that
that's kind of where we need to be?
Are you saying that the portfolio manager said this to you, or people who actually had titles like head of responsible investment?
I mean,
said that to you?
both.
Everybody.
All. Everybody. Really? I heard a variation of this everywhere. And the research, usually the heads of research were like sympathetic in as much as they would say things like, I mean, we like having more data. We just don't know what to do with this. So they'd be a little confused.
And
Portfolio managers were the best. I had a guy come in a Hawaiian suit or a Hawaiian shirt, shorts, and Birkenstocks, typing on his BlackBerry. Yes, BlackBerries were a thing. And he was typing on his BlackBerry, didn't look up, said, if you don't tell me something I didn't know already within the first 5 minutes, I'm fucking out of here. That was how I started the meeting after I said, hi, my name is Matt.
Was it mostly men anecdotally that had this attitude, or was it a mixed bag?
98% men that had that. The women were, if they thought that, it was quiet.
Okay. Well, what's the aftermath of this? I know that he was suspended, right?
The aftermath was the CEO of HSBC came out and condemned the remarks, which is a little rich considering it's not exactly like you didn't know what you hired. The guy had zero ESG.
This is
also not only that, but he was so he was hired. Yes, you should know the person you're hiring. They sent him to the event and they sponsored the event.
That is correct.
Yeah, and according to the New York Post, can you believe the New York Post? I have no idea, but they reported that sources familiar with the presentation's planning told the outlet that its theme and content were agreed internally before the event took place.
That is 100% correct.
They
because
made a
you
PowerPoint.
Cannot get it past legal without them looking at it.
Here's where I'm confused though, and maybe this speaks to what you're saying about portfolio managers all telling you that you're a loony lefty. But HSBC CEO Noel Quinn, he's the chair of the Financial Services Task Force of HRH, the Prince of Wales Sustainable Markets Initiative.
Yeah.
Okay? Which is all about a group committed to change, a transition to a net zero economy, basically agreeing everything the opposite of what Stuart Kirk just said. The CEO of HSBC is also a member of the principals group of the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero, another group dedicated to just the opposite of what this guy is saying. And he's also a member of the World Economic Forum's International Business Council, which last year committed to the core stakeholder capitalism metrics released by the IBC. So I don't know who. My question to you, Matt, is it all greenwashing? I mean, is that's what you're suggesting?
I think actually, so I think two things are very real, which is number one, they knew what they got. Like suspending him and condemning him, they literally had to okay it. They bought the spot. They mostly must have known what he was going to say. And they're condemning him in backlash, right? Like the backlash was strong. I'm sure they had clients call them up and be like, this is not okay for the head of responsible investment to take this approach. I don't totally disagree with what he's saying in as much as he believes it. And this is how he was taught to see the world, right? Like that is actually how most.
Yeah, but who cares? He's representing a sustainability at HSBC. Who cares what he thinks? I mean, that's not his. Most people are never allowed to do that at corporations. You're not allowed to bring in
unless
your
they actually
anger.
sanction it.
Well, that's why I'm confused. I mean, my sense is that this was only sanctioned by like communications, and I'm looking at you, Steve John, Chief Communications Officer. Who is the whitest, dutiest person in this whole list of people I was looking at? Because you know who didn't approve this? Let me tell you a little bit about the Chief Sustainability Officer at HSBC. Her name is Celine Herwiger.
Very nice.
And here's her background, Matt. A climate scientist and NASA fellow by training. She holds a PhD in climate modeling and policy from Columbia and is a visiting senior fellow at the Grantham Research Institute on Climate Change at the London School of Economics. So, you think this went by her desk? This didn't go by her desk.
This is great because it didn't. Those people, the head of sustainability, the actual people who know what they're talking about when it comes to something like climate, the tension inside these orgs, the PMs control the money, the head of responsible investing.
I still don't know what that means.
Head of that.
Maybe it just means he's responsible for investing.
The money. They get paid the most money. They are the center of revenue and profit at these companies, and then they are told by the people who actually have expertise in ESG, sustainability, climate, who are the heads of sustainability, who are usually
NASA
analysts.
fellow.
A NASA fellow, I'm sure she would have said, "Hey,
Go
Stuart,
F yourself.
can you shove this up your a-hole, please? Your bearded C-word a-hole." That's what she would have
And
said.
look, and again,
and
this is
she would not have been listened to at all.
And again, this is a gender thing too, because look at her qualifications and look at his. I mean, what you told us, he has no background in this, none. I mean, I hate to break it to you, I'm actually probably slightly more qualified to be the head of responsible investing. I'm just saying.
And with
I
that,
at least have a
You're
little
done.
bit of a background. Stuart Kirk.
that's it.
Stuart is
Are we
currently
moving on?
not the head of responsible investment. He's been suspended temporarily.
Okay,
pending
well, let me
an
ask you both this:
investigation.
Is he coming back?
I think there's 0% chance.
No, there's no way, right? I mean, this is laughable.
All right,
But
people,
you-
respect the air horn.
Can I
Let's
just say?
move
I
on.
wanted to say a few more
He
things.
can't respect it.
He can't.
Okay, fine. I'm done. Right. Let's talk about Matt for a few minutes.
Okay, excellent.
Although before we forget it. Okay, I mean Emma did pull some stuff from LinkedIn though supporting Stuart Kirk, but
There's
I
a
guess
lot.
We can skip over. Let's just say that there are a lot of men out there that are very happy this morning with Stuart
I
Kirk.
will read them as part of our credits.
Totally.
Okay. Moving on, our very own Matt Musardi, Devil Dog Musardi, as the Bloomberg refers to him as, was featured in the Bloomberg Green daily newsletter, some column from out of Bloomberg. In fact, they stole his quote as the title of the article, "There are no ESG stocks." But we wanted to ask you a few questions about this article, Matt, because we're
Yeah.
curious.
Okay.
Because technically you only have two fans, and that's us, because nobody else cares about you or likes you.
There's
Yes.
nothing truer than what you just said.
I'm sorry. So
you are
we're gonna
free float Stuart Kirk.
We're gonna fangirl and fanboy you. Let's talk about it. Okay, so they talking about here's what the newsletter says. As for the Tesla controversy, that debate has centered in part on whether ESG-focused investors should own shares of the world's most famous electric vehicle maker or not. And it goes on to say, for industry watchers like Matt Musardi,
That's me, yeah.
an
Watcher.
ESG consultant who spent almost a decade at MSCI, the real problem is with the question. So let's start to unpack this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have a few questions to start, and Emma, jump in, please. First of all, Matt, what the hell is an industry watcher? What are you doing? What are you up to?
It's a good question. I basically sit around and wait for things to be said about ESG that I can watch.
Oh, so you're watching the ESG industry. I thought it meant just
that's
like
the only-
industries.
No. Just
plural.
the ESG industrial complex. That's what,
Okay,
that's
and-
what I watch.
They call you an ESG consultant. I mean, okay, well, let's be real here. Who are you ashamed of us? Or is
Look,
Bloomberg
they
ashamed
know
of all of us?
Bloomberg
Like,
can't share the airtime with free float media. So
why? Why?
Now, I am now forever going to be telling people I'm from Free Float Analytics, which is the part of our firm that does its own
see,
product.
Emma,
and
we get no
things.
respect over here
No
in Kratos.
Because no one cares about you. That's what it
Whatever.
is.
I
They
think
call
the
me
Bloomberg-
ESG consultant when I tell them I'm from Free Float Media.
I think all of Bloomberg would love our Stuart Kirk takedown that we did on our previous episode. Oh, no, that was today.
That was
Stuart Kirk,
34
head of
minutes
responsible
ago.
investing, HSBC. I think they would like that.
Head of responsible investment.
Do you have any questions for Matt?
So you're an ESG consultant. Okay, whatever, fine. It also says that you worked for almost a decade at MSCI. Is that
yeah,
true?
almost. Almost.
Yeah.
Almost? How long was it really?
Because
Like 9.5 years.
Okay, it is almost.
well, according to your LinkedIn profile, you only worked at MSCI for 9 years and 3 months. So is there lying involved?
That's
here?
almost a decade, Emma. How dare you?
All
So
I'm saying is that there
confrontational.
are missing 7 months in there, and he's like a decade at MSCI. These feel like some fake credentials to me. I don't know.
This is cutting journalism. Here. Anything? What else you got for him?
Okay, so you say there are no ESG stocks. Do you
I
stand
did
by
say
this
that.
statement?
I did. Yeah, I
Okay.
do.
Do you think that this statement makes people feel sad?
Yeah, that's a good. See, this is a good question, and I want you to take this from both perspectives. Do you think people? MSCI, you think it makes them sad when you say there are no ESG stocks?
Yeah.
No, I don't. I don't think anyone's sad about it.
Okay.
Look,
Yeah.
Are there Dewey Decimal books?
Yes.
Are there Dewey Decimal books?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Can
my
I get a
mind
Dewey
is
Decimal
spinning.
rated
I mean, there
book?
are books about the Dewey Decimal System for sure.
Sure, there are books about ESG investing too. But
So what are you saying?
I'm
I
saying
see what
that,
you're saying.
that ESG is a collection of data. It's an organizational principle. It's not a thing. Therefore, you can't have an ESG stock.
But Matt, Tesla makes cars that don't use gas. Wouldn't that mean it's always an ESG stock? I don't understand.
It turns out that's in fact false. Because when you
Okay.
put your brother on the board, sexually harass a flight attendant, and then discriminate against your workforce, maybe that matters to someone too.
But Matt, I don't want to pay attention to the S and G of ESG. I only care about the E.
But see, that's the problem with ESG. You
Oh
can
my God.
selectively choose what you like.
This is not-
is going
You
off
do
the
this
rails.
all day. You do this all day.
This is going off the rails. Okay. Any other questions for the great Matt Musardi, who gets cited in Bloomberg, but again they refuse to say where he actually works.
Yeah, they didn't even
So-
link to our website. They linked to Muckraker or whatever.
Oh, really? We don't even
Yeah.
get.
We didn't
Damn.
get a link. Jeez, I don't know.
Sucks.
I get.
See, this is why this is why even Emma's mom no longer listens to our show because
It's
of
true.
this.
No, who
because of
does?
this. Any other questions for the great Matt Musardi?
Yeah. So my last one for him is that you say it assumes there is a such thing as an ESG stock. There are no ESG stocks. There's just ESG data to use as justification for people's previously held beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Dare I ask, who are these people who hold these beliefs? What
Yeah,
beliefs
who are these people, Matt?
are they?
They're usually the head
Yeah, what
of
are the beliefs?
responsible investment.
Here we go.
I no, you come in. Any person who sees a set of data then goes and looks through and finds something that they think is a viable investment thesis. So if I think that the world is a cataclysmic ball of fire in 10 years, I can use environmental data and then apply it to my portfolio and move and shift it so that my portfolio won't be a ball of fire in 10 years. But I can do that for worker rights. I can do that for diversity. I can do that for data security and privacy. I can do that for governance. I can do whatever. I can do
So
whatever.
if you're the head of responsible investing and your
I am.
previously held belief is that climate change is bullshit, then you can use ESG to not invest in renewables or whatever.
You sure can.
Strip clubs, and fast food.
You
Perfect.
sure can. There's plenty of
You know what?
target investments you can make.
Before we wrap up this amazing show, do you have any other questions for the great
No,
Matt
I'm
Musardi?
done. I don't want to hear Matt talk
Before
anymore.
we wrap up this
Oh,
amazing
okay.
show, let's remember that none of it matters because the stock market's going to continue to go up forever.
6%
I read that somewhere.
Forever.
every year.
That was head of responsible investment Damian Rawlis and head of responsible investment Emma Lurking.
Oh, what co-head?
As we go out here, I was Matt Musardi. We are Free Float Media. Subscribe to this podcast. I am going to read a few comments that were on LinkedIn for Stuart
Oh, I
Kirk.
can't wait. I
and
love men
his-
talking. Let's
his
go.
wonderful speech. Man number one, Pat Hool, said, Stuart, a hero for our times. Man
hero?
number two, yes,
Wow.
a hero.
And
Man number two, Peter M, said, thank you, Stuart. You are a hero for telling the truth about climate
hero.
hoax. There's no just climate hoax. Our
Okay.
children will thank you.
Ooh.
Woman number one, Diane Hall, financial advisor at Gateway Financial Advisors, said, I agree wholeheartedly with you regarding the great crisis looming, including cyber attacks, China trade imbalance, housing, inflation, loss of energy independence, etc. I am sorry that you are probably going to be canceled shortly. The woke crowd only wants you to worry about critical race theory, social justice, and climate change. You are my hero of the day. Managed to slip
Critical
in
race
critical
theory.
race theory. That wasn't anywhere in there.
and she
Good-
kept-
People are
capitalized it,
good at
too.
throwing critical race theory into contexts
Wait.
where it doesn't belong.
It's impressive. It's impressive.
You know what I've just
work.
learned? You know, I've just learned that the woke crowd, so we're not allowed to actually fire anybody. So right, we don't have, so even if you're not doing your job, even if you were hired as the head of responsible investing at HSBC and you're literally not doing your job and you're making fun of it, making fun of everyone around you, and you even left out the part, Matt, that he made fun of the speaker right before him. He made fun of Mark Carney.
Called them Sharon and Marks. Yeah, Mark and Sharon.
So even if you're not doing a job, we are not even allowed to fire anybody.
Nope.
Because that's canceling,
that
right?
would be canceling.
Canceling is code for what? I don't even understand it.
I think it's code for critical HR theory.
I don't understand.
That was the Head of Responsible Investment podcast. We'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.